Okay, there we go. And then you may have to start the YouTube from your computer again.
Okay.
Because I think I deleted it or I X'd out of it.
Okay. No
But
problem. Thank you.
yes, thank you.
Still says live.
Okay, you should be good then. If not, it's okay. Yeah, all good.
Call to order the August 21st, 2025 meeting of the Historic Resources Commission here in room
141, conference room.
Thank you, Jacqueline. In the conference room of the building next door here. The next, and the time officially is 4:10 p.m. Thank you for your patience while we sort of your technical matter here. The next business meeting of the commission will be Thursday, September 4th, 2025 at noon next door in room 205, 111 North Front Street on the second floor. The next hearing of the commission will be Thursday, September 18th, 2025 at 4 p.m., 111 North Front Street, second floor, room 141. Jacqueline, raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth in your testimony for the commission this evening?
I do, Jacqueline myself.
Thank you. And introduction of the commissioner here present this evening, starting on my far right.
Mike Ford, Stuart Gibney, Matt Leisure,
Cynthia Hunt.
Joseph McCabe.
Clyde Henry.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the staff approvals for this evening.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second with Michael. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. Moving on to approval of the minutes from the last meeting, which was July 17th, 2025.
So moved.
And a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes, minutes approved. On to applications for certificate of appropriateness this evening. The first three cases have been moved to staff approval, so we're on to continued applications. Number 4, COA 25005571 1551 Bryden Road. Anybody here for 1551 Bryden Road? You want to temporarily just wait on that and come back? Okay, well, then we will go on to case number 5, 1091 South High Street. Come forward. Coastal Sons. And before you sit down, I'll have you each raise your right hands. Do you each swear to tell the truth in your testimony for the commission this evening?
I do.
State your full name and association with the property for record.
Roger Kessler, Kessler Sign Company, the applicant.
Steve Sidwell, Englefield Oil.
Wonderful, thank you. Have a seat, Jackie.
Hey, this property for 1091 South High Street is proposing to replace an existing ground sign, on sign, window decal, and then the pump station canopy signage. So this property consists of a gas station, including 2 fuel pump areas, which are sheltered by canopies, and then a convenience store. Prior to the 2025 proposals, the most recent approval regarding signage was from 2008. An application for a wall sign and exterior alterations to the convenience store building was previously approved at the June hearing. As part of the proposal and approval, the wall sign at the side of the convenience store was removed. The applicant for this application has clarified that the gas pump canopy signage will remain the same and is being replaced like for like due to wear and tear over time of that existing signage. The applicant noted that the reason they are replacing the ground sign instead of refacing is due to that mold no longer existing. At the August meeting, the commission asked if the existing condition and the proposed condition could be included side by side for the building. Some commissioners noted concern that adding signage to the awning too greatly exceeds the amount of signage beyond the guidelines. Some commissioners retained concern about the impact of the signage on one axis of the entry to the Breed Historic District. The recommendation for staff is approval of application COA 2500554 at 1091 South High Street in the Brewery District, with the condition that that an interior window decal or a blaze sign is used in lieu of awning signage. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code 3116.13, standards for sign improvements, letter C, the short North design guidelines regarding signage, which includes general guidelines for signage, awning guidelines, and then there are the stored resources guidelines for signage. Thank you.
Jacqueline, what would the applicant like to add at this time?
Yeah, we brought some exhibits that you probably have in your packet. The exhibit we're showing you right here are the letters that are on the trellis or the canopy. Currently, it's got multicolor, like red, yellow, and.
Can you raise it up slightly?
Oh, there you go. Sorry. So you can see that the lettering is very tiny, and it's just a branding thing that we're trying to do on all of our stores throughout the greater Columbus area. And it talks about when the store was founded, when the company was founded, and some of the benefits inside the store. So I think you agree it looks very nice. And the building signage, the Crown and the Duchess meet your restrictions of 25 square feet. On the road sign, as was stated, we do not have those molds, can't find those molds. It was done some 25, 30, maybe 35 years ago. So you can imagine that. So we've designed a sign that mimics what we have currently. It'll be externally illuminated, and the numbers will be slid in for the gas prices, much like it is today. Same deal. This sign is actually smaller square footage than what currently is there. In addition to that, we plan to repaint the brewery district sign underneath on both sides and both sides. And we're paying for that. On the gas canopy, we're planning on doing like for like, nothing changing, not a thing, or we're just refreshing what's already there. This kind of gives you a little better view of it. Same way with the dispensers. They're like for like, nothing's changing, just refresh. Over time, they fade, they look worn, and it does look worn. So we want to make it look nice and fresh. And that, there's two canopies there, as you both know, all know, one on the right, one on the left. This is just a picture of that. Any questions?
Do you have any consideration potentially for the staff? So the staff recommendation for us was to essentially approve the application of the following condition, being the interior window decal or employee sign used in lieu of the awning sign. Is there any consideration for potentially doing a window decal maybe instead of your awning sign?
It really isn't. It's not part of our brand, so we wouldn't do that. They've got they being the marketing department have got certain specifications, and putting things on windows isn't one of them.
I'll open up to the other members of the commission first.
Sounds like if we didn't have the awning stuff, we could pass this pretty quick.
So what's right now instead of awning?
Currently, it's multicolors without text.
Can you turn your mic on, Jen?
Oh, yes, thank you. Currently, the awning is multicolors but without text. I'll bring this up here. I'm still so used to having being here.
And the new design's black with white lettering, There's the founded in Ohio, 1961. Which I guess one could look at almost like a cornerstone. I mean, you don't count the cornerstone generally in a building, the signage. So it kind of comes down to the cold beer, deli subs and fresh, Robin.
Yeah.
And go.
Yeah, and we're removing the big Duchess sign up there and changing the color of the awning being multicolor. Oops. Too fast, didn't I?
So the new Dutchess sign actually, I think, looks better than the red box.
Yeah, we agree.
You know, but it's, our decisions are based on, not on aesthetics, but on appropriateness for the historical district. So that's where we struggle with.
We're talking about the words there.
Yeah, on the building, everything else had previously been approved with the exception of that strip.
Right.
What's the color gonna be?
Black, it'd be black. And the lettering would be white. I believe the 4-inch letters.
Will it be lit?
No,
Okay, well, that's fine.
It's before.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Think of. What do we have for precedents? We do we have any bar that has stuff on been pretty.
Generally, people do a mix of things, and that's, I think, why what the basis of staff's recommendation is that there's an awning sign, or sorry, a blade sign or a window decal, because usually people interchange the types of things.
and I think we all can agree that the founded is more of a cornerstone sign, or cornerstone marker. And we would agree with that. So I guess it's really the question. Cold beers and the Dutchess logo.
Yeah, to me though. Yeah, it's the stuff that you're selling, marketing, that's the. I mean, I think the founded in, it's almost really cool because it's like. There's a history to it and all that,
Right.
I'm not selling it necessarily, so I can live with it, it's the cold beer. That is definitely,
You think we can get away with it?
I mean, I go back a little bit to the short north guidelines, and it says under awning guidelines, which that is the guide for signage here. And it says, graphics allowed on any awning should be located on the front facing flat, which all it is. The maximum allowable area basically should not exceed 50%, well, it's just lettering. And then it says graphics may include the name, function, key thing function, and or address. And it says just avoid texture and abstract graphic images. And or things that are, basically avoid only appropriate things.
so it's,
I mean,
Could we say that's function?
function, yeah.
This function, I thought what was more at stake was quantity of signage is what my recollection was. It's like not just awning, canopies, ground.
but isn't function, it's a gas station or a convenience store, function isn't, you can get sandwiches and
Sure.
beer, I mean, it's
I buy
a
that.
menu.
I'm fine with that based on the guidelines. It's more the quantity. I feel like we're already making some concessions and that's.
And there's like a million.
We're back with the last thing.
When things all over canopies, basically.
Yeah.
Look at the before, and they had some additional signage on the brick panel, to the right. They had a second branding of the Dutchess shop and some reward program or something or other. Because it's interchangeable sign.
Yeah.
Which is going away. So could we look at it as a reduction in the amount of total signage?
I mean, I think I understand if it was a reduction, but if this project were new, And or like any other applicant that then comes through and they propose a significant renovation that is brought up to meet code as it is today at a certain point. Some of the stuff is a replacement of like for like, which already exists.
Which we typically approve as like.
Right. So some of the excessive signage on the canopy is a like for like replacement. Even the ground sign is smaller, but it, I mean, while none of us may like it, it's a sort of a like for like replacement going on.
What do you think?
We would certainly love to have the branding piece on the right-hand side of the awning, as I look at it.
I think you'll
With the-
follow on that one. I think the team got the function.
Yeah.
Now you gotta look at the number of signs and the.
Right. So, and we're getting rid of, as Clyde's pointing out, that we're getting rid of two large signs are on the side of the building now. And we're making significant improvements to the building for the betterment of the entrance into the gateway. You would really like to have it. You guys can see your way.
Yeah, I wanna make sure, this is not an emotional reaction.
Right.
It's completely legal in terms of what guidelines we are bound by and what has been allowed in the past. So that's what you see the commission struggling with. It's not uncommon for branding to conflict with the historic district requirement.
Right.
And that's where we are, I think.
We can call for, for a vote and see where things go. It's really
Go with
sure
the founded.
up to the applicant, really.
Yeah, I mean, if we could go, at least go with the founded, I think we could get that through the marketing. If we take off the cold beer and the deli.
So you would be proposing a revision to just eliminate everything on the right-hand side.
Correct.
It would only be the content on the left-hand
Correct.
side. Seeing some general.
It's a fair movement, even though it may be out of the context of the volume. I think that gets into the opportunity of the historicity of the gate. I think that's a real important, nice piece to add to that. So I can see that being very functional.
Sounds like you should probably propose a motion to that effect on that basis.
Yep.
Maybe this class is on.
That's right. Try to say this right. In regards to.
And this is number 5 on the agenda.
1091 South High Street, right? EOA 2500488. I would move to approve with the following reduction of signage that the,
I'd say additional.
with the additional reduction.
Well, yeah, I already reduced some. I just know that. So sort of with the additional reduction from the application.
Okay. That we're removing the text on the east side of the canopy and maintaining the text on the west side of the canopy as existing in the drawings.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Having a motion and a second. Just the only point of discussion, is it better to say right-hand side? I don't know that this is true of east, just for clarity.
Sure, we can add right hand side. Or could spell it out. I just
We understand.
Yeah.
And I would add in recognition of the historic dimensions of the building and the business by retaining the left-hand side, quote unquote, or the.
Could add that. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the additional approval percentage. Thank you.
We can momentarily go back here. Is anybody here for 1551 Brown Road? No. Okay. Then we will move on to case number 6, 1036 South Main Street. You can each raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony for commission this evening?
I do.
Because you each state your full name and association with the property for records.
Craig Moncrief, attorney for the applicant.
David Maleka, architect.
Jacqueline.
This application is for 1036 South Front Street. The proposal is demolition of the existing building and a new construction of the 6-story building at Messina Materials. At the August business meeting, the commission had asked that the full height measurements be included in the elevation drawings, including areas of parapets. The commission asked to clarify that the zoning setbacks are for the 60-foot height maximum, wanted to confirm that no additional variances will be needed. The commission asked the applicant to include a letter or verification from the zoning department that the proposal meet the affordability bonus to exceed the 5-story zoning maximum. The commission noted that the applicant, that they can go through any design changes that have been made at the hearing. In response to the business meeting feedback, the applicant has submitted updated materials to include the height information and then a letter from the zoning department regarding the height bonus. So flipping ahead here, city code specifies that contemporary design elements for new structures relate to existing contributing properties surrounding the new structure. Guidelines further clarify that a vinyl clad wood window, an aluminum clad wood window, or aluminum window may be considered for new construction if the size, profile, operation, and proportion are appropriate to the style and design of the new construction. So staff recommends selecting a window from the approved windows list or a clad window to relate to the adjacent historic structures as consistent with the city code guidelines and then the requirements for other properties that are required to select an appropriate window from the approved windows list. The staff recommendation is to recommend approval of application COA 2500675 at 1036 South Front Street in the Bereaved District with the following conditions. That is that a window from the approved windows list or a clad window that relates to the adjacent contributing buildings is submitted with final drawings and cut sheets to be submitted to staff or commission subcommittee for final review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code 34A10.040, applicability of Title 31. The City Code standards for construction 3116.12. The City Code standards for demolition 3116.14. And the Historic Resources Commission Amendment Guidelines. Thank you.
What would the applicant like to add here? Including, by the way, if you'd like to also, just if you can address the staff recommendation you heard.
Yeah, I guess just clarification. So we had proposed to use the exact same window and window profile that we used on Topiary Park Crossing. So I'm not sure if that's on the list or what the list is, but that was what we were proposing.
Is it on the list, you know? Is it on the
I
list?
don't think Topiary or windows were on the list, but that building does look spectacular. It's
Portions of the,
Not that you just, not that you were part of the approving phase 4,
I was part of that.
That's what I'm saying.
And
but not on the approved list.
I don't believe so. It was, I was staffing a different commission at the time, so out of my memory.
what time?
So that'd be a recommendation to be consistent.
I mean, if it got approved, I'm assuming it was on, and puts it on an approved list, right? No?
But what I would say is it's held up really well, though. The performance of that window has exceeded expectations. It's still doing really well.
Yeah, I was out there yesterday and, yeah, the coloration staying there. and
That's supposed to
yeah,
work.
Yeah, I mean, and what's nice about them, they can do these oversized windows, which are harder to get in some of these more, yeah. They want,
Branding and all that.
yeah, customization.
Right, it's good. I would be okay with that personally, but
Based on what? Based on the test case?
based on the fact that there's significant use of a product that's held up in a previous project, it's been, how old was that building? 8, 9,
This
point,
the window's been out there a couple of years.
3 or 4.
44, yeah. That was a year in the making.
They do have the right proportion and look for, I think it was window set in the
But small.
Right, his approved list was primarily we're thinking in terms of residential and so forth, we'll put that together. And so we've done test cases for other types of buildings, newer buildings, mid-century modern buildings, and so forth, that this doesn't fit the list real well. So I'd be fine doing it.
Are you recommending a test case?
Yeah, it would have to be a test case, because otherwise we can't approve it.
I agree. Was it openly one test case?
Yeah. I
So
assume
there
so.
is a second test case of a test?
Yeah,
It's a-
yeah.
What's, where does it,
Final
is it
exam.
part of the test cases that if it works and it holds up, then we want to just absorb it and no longer do tests and then just.
But there's a process to get it on the approved.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Which is the test case.
Which in other commissions, I assume are doing test cases also. And we have done multiple tests on the same window. Especially if it worked well, we go, okay, we try it again. And eventually someday, both the shingles and the window will probably be updated. But the problem is, it's a big issue because all the commissions have to approve it. So putting together that original list of years, because everybody has to agree. It might be easier. Well, I don't think you want each commission to approve to have a separate list either, because that makes problems for people who want to develop in the city. Having the list is nice, but probably have to update it.
But to your point, Clyde, the list is primarily focused on residential.
It is, I agree.
Which is why I don't have a problem putting it in this test case.
And the test cases are intended to be on new construction, intended to be mid-century modern.
Or more modern.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's sound logic.
The commission can approve the approved list. The approved lists are developed just to make it easier for folks who are been trying to find like, okay, is this appropriate? Is this appropriate? So we gave them a basis and something much easier to get approved.
Right.
Did we, I thought we wanted you guys to walk through any design changes.
Yeah.
Last time.
Yeah, we can do that. I don't know if you just want to go through the submission here. So, plan wise, I know one of the questions was, okay, the ins and outs of the building, how's the building actually sitting on the site and how those, dimensionality of it worked and where the piers. So the plan was developed showing that, dimensioned the ins and outs, as well as showing entrances, staircases going into some of those lower units, as well as the locations of all the openings on the ground level. At least that's what this one's showing. Next one is planting plan, primarily. And then the upper level plan, which again, developing that with actual window locations where we're having Juliet balconies as opposed to full balconies. The full balconies are just in the courtyard space. We have Juliet's on the north and south faces to kind of break up those facades. And then just elevating every single, making sure we're showing you all the elevations. So the inside of the courtyard there and just the cross sections. And just development of those elevations. That would be the west elevation and south elevation there. And then color of those, showing you where the coloration is going to happen. There's basically three colors happening: the brick, the green, and then there's a gray color. So we're looking at the north elevation and then the east elevation here, and coloration of those. So these are the areas I blew up and did exact detailing so you could see materiality and some of the ins and outs of that. And these are those details. And then
Say I plot you on where we started from and now where we are. This is a long way into the right direction, I believe. The facade has changed dramatically to user friendliness, and I think you've done a good job of listening to the comments that we made. Thank you.
I appreciate hearing that. I think it is a better project. And then just the materiality, so that was the window sections, and then you're seeing just hardy, the siding, hardy plank, hardy boards. The two colors that we're using, not really representative there very well, but in close.
You
And the
didn't bring
brick.
those with you, did you?
Huh?
You didn't bring those with you?
I did not this
Okay.
time. They're more, definitely more muted than that.
What's the finished color you're proposing?
For the windows, I think we're gonna go with the black window on those. Yep.
If, I think it's important to commit to that black window because there might be a change to the design to something else.
Yep, we will commit to it.
Okay.
It's nice about the company that we are using for this. We can use any window color, so it's very rare. And then the openings on the ground floor, we're using this metal detailing that same one we used at the Topiary Park, the fencing with the finials. And then just the railing series that we're using for the balconies. And the canopies, the metal canopies over the entry doors on the ground floor. Front doors, 2-panel. And the overhead garage door, which will be again on the south side of the building.
How quiet are these garage doors? I didn't get to that page, sorry. How quiet are these garage doors? You know,
I don't know. That I don't know.
because you're pretty close to some of the other properties.
Yeah, I think we're, probably 30 feet, 35 feet maybe.
But only to the south, right?
Only to the south. It's the only garage, operable door that'll be there. Yes.
You have a sense of where it is in terms of the market, in terms of
I
high,
don't.
medium, low?
I have no idea, really. It's again the same one we specified for the Topiary Park crossing project. So that's sort of how we based it.
Yeah, it doesn't really help me.
I know. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just would like to register those questions for you guys to research. I wouldn't make it contingent on that. I'd just like to know.
Okay. I think that's it.
Opening up to the commission for additional questions or conversation thoughts.
Well, we received 2 more letters from the public, which were pretty strong. That takes us to 17 letters. Some of them duplicate people, but 17 letters expressing concern about the project. I think you guys with Clyde and you guys did a nice job of trying to move in our direction. Appreciate it. My principal issue still remains the 6 stories. I think that's too high for the neighborhood, even given the zoning requirements that we are trying to honor and support, so. But there's much to like about so. So.
Do you have a clarifying question? So the amenity deck.
Yes.
Would that be a separate submittal? For this?
Yeah, we have not designed, we know we're doing a pool in there, but we haven't specifically put in what the walkway is and the materiality. A lot of that, every time we've done these before, the occupancy winds up being such an issue. As far as back and forth about how much space we can have for active occupants, we haven't dug into that.
Okay, so are you committing to doing it, or is it like, if project moves forward, then we'll see when we're kind of, I'm just asking.
You're saying, do you want to see what the actual deck, what's happening on the deck itself?
Yeah, so we've approved the design of that as
Yep.
part of the approval package for Gem Steel, and I think we would need to do that here also, at least in my opinion, so.
Yeah, we don't, again, if we can get approval here, we know we understand we have to come back for signage. We don't have exterior lighting shown, and yeah, we could come back with the deck as well.
Is it what's going to be happening on the deck, or do you want to be assured that the deck's going to be there?
Well, both.
Yeah, because visually, I think the deck needs to be there because it pushes
Right.
the
Yeah.
volume back. Yeah,
Right.
so that part can't change. What's actually on there?
Yeah.
Well, so.
Where do you see that? It's a pool or not? Tall, I suppose.
But we've also reviewed other projects that have structures on the deck, like shade structures or furnishes or whatever, permanent features.
We have had other developers that'll come back to us with cool plans further defined.
Yeah, I think if we don't see it, we are not approving it. Like, that's what I see. So what we are seeing is what we are approving at this point. Any change to the look and feel of the building, any new structures being added, in my opinion, any alterations is a different thing. It has to come back because we're not seeing it. There's no way for us to imagine it.
Right.
Because if there were now suddenly a patio of umbrellas on this or whatever, it's a whole other project, and I don't know if we would go that route. So if you like what we see, then that's what we're focusing on. That's what we're doing.
And it could be a submission on the plans, and once that's submitted, then we can review it, but it sounds like you've gotten this really close. So.
It is no different than a burger bakery came back, so like.
Yeah, right.
Cool layout.
Yeah, come back.
Was something, Rockford to the hotel came back, with additional development, and it was an addition. From, because of all of these.
Yeah, no problem on our end.
Curious on the perimeter landscaping around the building. Really like what you're doing on the west facade, and that's really come a long way. It's really pedestrian friendly now. What I'm more curious about is on the north and south facades. It seems really minimal. I'm curious, what's that width? The depth, I guess you would say, the depth of that planting.
We have about 4 feet there along that edges.
And so what would that afford in terms of what types of plantings? Because I think what we're showing right now is more like small bushes and ground cover.
It's not small bushes. We're trying to do vertical, large arborvitae. So something more vertical that covers up sort of the garage on that lower level.
I
So
guess in the
that's,
rendering, maybe it's not quite represented.
it's not represented. So the landscape plan was done after the rendering. So the landscape plan is correct in what we're showing, the materiality there.
Okay. I think what I'm working through and thinking about the residents on either end and their views, looking out their windows to either a barren facade of brick or being able to soften that up and make that also pedestrian friendly, much in the same way you guys responded and did such over on the west facade. So I'd like to see actually what that is. I understand maybe the landscape plan here is differing, but it would be nice if the package were more consistent in showing the materiality of those plans. And I'm curious, Matt, if you have any opinions on that as well, you are resident landscape architect here.
Yeah, I think, like the landscape plan has one street tree, I understand that's maybe all that you have space for, but.
That street tree is existing.
Okay,
So yeah, so we were kind of like, okay, we're working around that. Everything else is outside of, a lot of this is outside of the property line.
Hmm.
So we're still going to be getting city approval to plant the material.
so the render, the big elevation render shows some trees and things that aren't necessarily part of the plan.
I think there are more ornamental trees that we have in our along the front of the building. Yeah, so those what you were seeing there, we've got I don't remember what they have. Can't remember what was specified for those individual, but the trees that you're seeing that are right along the units are an ornamental tree.
So I guess the question or what I'm hearing from it is that the rendering and the plan need to be consistent so that we know that what we're seeing is what are we getting? Are we getting this? Are we getting that? Is it one and the same thing? And the not just this facade, but the opposite one too. So
You're talking about the perspective needs to have the exact planting that is shown on the planting plan.
Because when you so these the landscape plan, yeah, they're showing these trees.
But the planting plan, the landscape plan is accurate, right?
You should note that. I would say, or maybe the commission needs to note that there are conflicting materials in your package that are showing different things. We're trying to approve a package that's being presented, and if it has different elements to it, then it's used.
Well, I understand you could say that the landscaping is shown for illustrations only.
Yeah, but I think
But the
that's
landscape plan.
And not in a because I do this for a living, so I'm saying of it like because you can camouflage facades, you can soften it by introducing different plants. So we just want to be accurate. If you're showing a shrub, just show us a shrub. If you're showing us a little tree, show us a little tree. So that when we look, because right now we like what we are seeing, and the green is adding to what we're liking. But if that's not what it is, then don't put it.
But I think the applicant, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in the applicant's mouth, is that any consideration for approval would be that you are approving this per the landscape plan, which is the next slide down, Jack.
That's right.
That any voting of it is this. This is what they're going to be tied to, is what is right there, which includes tree species count and positioning.
Correct.
And is that what it says in the package?
Well, that's what if we're going to be approving or considering motion on anything. I mean, I would expect that.
Or
This
so the
is the plan.
Right. But then what's the harm in the rendering showing what's in the landscape plan? That's what I'm confused about because I'm now guessing that tree species.
Bottom line though is the inspector of the field is not gonna use the rendering anyways, they're gonna have to have a plan. Right? And it's the way a final stamp is gonna have to be consistent with the plan.
I guess, I think it's a bad precedent to have renderings that go into the newspaper that don't necessarily reflect the design that's.
I agree.
I don't think that's being made. But the technical detail, of course, is what we're looking at in the plan, but.
So you're saying that you're pretty close to what this is what you're.
I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing you are looking at this and you're proving that, but that rendering is just for the sake of a rendering effect.
So it was done earlier. I don't think it's deliberate, right? It was just performed earlier.
Yeah.
So I mean, we first got a rendering and then I think this commission asked for a landscape plan.
How was it not?
Well, so let me ask you a question. How do we feel about the landscape? How do we feel about the landscape plan? This, with one large tree and a lot of arborvitae.
Well, to be noted, the street tree though is not their purview.
I got it. With one tree
Right.
shown, which is not their purview.
It's more
Are
than
we
one tree.
comfortable? Say what?
We've got trees along the front facade of the building.
So
And it calls
I'm asking what
white
you're.
dogwood tree
Right. They're on the plans.
So I'm not sure.
I'm just asking you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11
Just in the front, that's.
in the front. There's no, again, there's no site to put these on,
On the north and south.
north and south. And we are putting them outside our property right now.
So I would prefer to the two landscape architects or
Right.
people that have experience on this. I mean, generally, my understanding from working through things is if you only have 4 or 5 feet, you're very limited on the CCN, that's correct, for the health and longevity of the tree.
Yeah, and I think the north and south side, you're working with what you have there, so I think I can understand that. The backside, I'm not as concerned about. I think the inconsistency that I'm talking about is we have relatively small trees along each of the unit facades that aren't really shown on the render right now. So each of those individual units have their own tree, which I think is a good concept, but it's just not shown that way right now.
Just subtract it from the rendering. If we make that conditional part of the acceptance, that they fix it. Just asking about the landscape plan. The whole of it is the same.
As long as it.
I would like to build a plan.
So if I have that contact for the landscape plan.
I think I can go with the content
Okay.
personally, so just.
That's really
Yeah.
Yeah, the plans, again, the plans plan, I just want to say that if it's in the plan, eventually the rendering should select what's in the plan.
I think there's violent agreement on this point.
Yes.
Okay, on this, at the stage.
You just slip one in there after a boots. Yeah, I
You
mean,
guys
it's
wanna
good. Yeah, we'll talk about it after, yeah.
I would also like to make sure all the commission members had a chance to ask questions, that you might get jumping over here to.
I do have a question on the massing diagram. Again, this might be a thing that just is old, but should be updated, at least to me. So if you keep going back,
This is the big yellow footprint one.
yeah.
Up and down.
So there's a note that there's a required setback. Keep going, 2 more. Yeah, above the podium. But I think the facade does come straight down to the. So I just want to understand if that is actually required. I don't think it is. I just want to make sure that we understand that from a zoning standpoint.
Can you explain that again? Sorry.
So it says required setback above the podium.
Yeah, I don't think that's prevalent. I haven't seen that.
Okay, I just want to clarify that.
No, absolutely.
But that would be something that we could be in the final package.
When I look at the second floor plan and the deck area, on the rendering, it shows that there's a flower box there. And there's a little line of greenery.
Yep.
And it also shows, it looks like there's trees, I assume, and planters of some sort up on that level. However, that flower box seems to have disappeared in the, on the deck. Is there or is there not a flower box? And is
Yeah,
there
so
or is there not?
if you look in front of what I'll call the arcade, which is the colonnade near the pool towards the bottom, there's a 4-foot dimension here between there. So that is where the plant material would exist.
Okay, I see. It's just labeled as such, it's not.
Yeah, it's not labeled again, because we haven't really developed the pool deck, but that's the anticipated area for all that material.
Okay. So
It'll be acting as our fencing sort of in through there.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Does somebody want to consider?
Are we good with having the rendering updated? Is yeah, I think
All of the package has to be updated.
the package, yeah. Number 6, right?
Yes.
1036 South Street, I think motion to approve with the caveat of the following changes, that the rendering reflect what's in the landscape plan. And so all the drawings match up basically to what is actually going to be, what is being proposed and as discussed today. The flower boxes on anything labeled as such, so we can record that as well. That was the
Submission of the pool deck as a future condition.
submission of the pool deck and any other changes. And any other changes, so would be separate application follow-up.
About the windows, we want to mention anything about the windows.
Yes, and the windows are being allowed as a test case. And we look forward to learning how it holds up and fits and so we.
And that's the Lindsay innovation, so
Okay.
And
That additional submissions also include exterior lighting and signage.
Yeah, those are not part of the design, exterior lighting, signage, any changes, they all come back.
and we appreciate the applicant's recognition that the commission process has been positive in terms of final design.
All right, that's the motion.
Second. So there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Jacqueline?
Just for the record, since motion will also include demolition, maybe just have a recap our reasons for demolition, so we have that on the record.
Okay, so I would need the motioner to amend their motion to include demolition.
Amending the motion to include demolition, and I think we've always talked about that being only demolished when this building is going to be guaranteed to be built, right? We don't want to demolish if you're not going to build.
Or if there's any substantial risk to funding financing. Is that what you need?
I was thinking more so, the commission had discussed previously, they're able to support demolition in this case, it's being due to changes to the building over time, and the condition, so a combination of those things were the reasons that the commission was able to support demolition in this case.
So if the motion then is a second, or all right then.
yes.
Yeah, because for further, like on the record, I, on this topic of demolition, I do not believe there's enough original material left on the structure. And so much original components of the buildings have already been placed. Though we don't know who on the interior, the interior is no longer intact. And the building is significantly altered, and the further record too, the applicant provided a significant documentation package, including photographs, evidence of interior alterations, exterior alterations, conditions. And they did a very good job of actually documenting the building that they're proposing for demolition.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Just like to add and build upon the consistency of documentation that, above and beyond the comments about the rendering specific to the landscape, that package be consistent in its materials so that plans, elevations, and renderings are all matching to show the proposed conditions that are being brought to the commission.
So just so that we recommend approval, the approval is not given until that happens? Is that what we're saying?
Conditional. On our-
Just a condition,
That's what he does. I get that, I'm just saying.
yes, so the COA cannot be issued until those conditions are satisfied, and we typically, we need the permit drawings anyway, as part of the COA.
And we would make that, I would think we would get staff approval.
Yeah, when she received the staff of the increment drawings.
So the final things, final materials to be submitted to staff.
Final changes, so good.
Sounds good to me.
Okay,
Any further discussion, further comments, clear? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Opposed? Abstentions? And 2 opposed? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 approval. So motion just passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to case number 730 Oakwood Avenue. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
Yes.
If you could state your full name and association with your property record.
Logan Guinan and representing the.
Okay. Jacqueline?
Okay, this application is for 730-732 Oakwood Avenue. The proposed work is to remove glass block windows that were installed by the prior owner without approval, and then to install treated wood that is trimmed and painted to appear as a window. So the application is a result of a code violation, and after initially receiving approval for work, the prior property owners had undertaken a significant amount of work without permits or COAs, including the installation of glass windows. The current owner has submitted applications to address those unapproved work items, including proposed repair replacement to address prior side entrance, stop fascia, chimney, rear handrails, light fixtures. So those have been staff approved in July. The property includes an early 1900s 2.5-story wood brick duplex. The basement windows were boarded for many years. Glass block windows were installed without approval in 2024. And any extant historic windows behind those boards, if they were in place, would have been removed at that time. At the August district meeting, the commission asked if the plywood would be a finished straight plywood or zero plywood. And the commission asked if the size of the original window opening could be included in the application materials, as the size looked more rectangular in the drawings, and want to make sure that the boarding will fit the original window opening. In response to the business meeting feedback, the applicant has clarified that the plywood to be used will be a finished grade birch plywood, and that the basement window will match, and included the measurements there. Staff recommends approval of application COA 2500719 at 730-732 Oakwood Avenue in the Old Oaks Historic District, with any and all clarifications to be submitted to HBO staff for review and approval prior to issuance of the certificate. The basis of staff recommendation is the City Code Standards for Alteration 3106.11, numbers 6 and 12, and then the guidelines regarding windows and the amendment guidelines regarding window replacement.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Is there anything out there like to add at this time?
No.
Okay, open this up for any other discussion by the commission as may be necessary.
I can make a motion.
Okay.
COA 2500719, 730 to 732 Oakwood Avenue. I recommend as submitted.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Further discussion?
I'm still struggling with the window dimension. It's really the size?
It's 20 by 27.
And do you think that was original window, or do you think that was replacement since the house was built? Do you know?
I have no idea.
It just doesn't look like the right scale to me.
I understand.
I believe you're trying to do the right thing here, so I'm not.
Yeah.
Negative. It seems to be.
I think it might be just your sketch of. That's.
It's a 3-part window, I'm certainly. That I can get over. It's not, it's a basement window.
Well, now it's a faux basement.
I'm okay with both. And it's not glass brick, which is great.
I just learned how to do CAD drawing just for this hearing, so.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to say so long.
Moving on to case number 8, 912 Run Road. Yeah, and do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening?
I do.
If you can state your full name and association with the property for record.
Christine Donaldson, and I'm the owner.
Wonderful. Jacqueline.
This application for 12 Bryan Road is proposing to remove existing wood board fencing and install aluminum fencing along the east property line. The fencing would be 3 feet in height at the front, transitioning to 4 feet in height, and then 5 feet in height for the north and toward the rear of the home. The commission has approved some test cases with aluminum fencing designed to look like wrought iron. We have some examples. Look at the materials here. A similar design of this specific kind of aluminum fence to the current proposal was approved in a limited capacity in a rear yard. That fencing was initially installed without approval, so it's a particular case, but one that you can take a look at. These are some of the past fencings approved. They look a bit more like wrought iron. And so modern. Right. Yeah, and then here is our past test case of one that looks a bit more similar. It is in this rear yard area here, so I imagine it might have been in consideration.
Where is that?
I have the number here, but I did not include the address. At the business meeting, the commission had asked if additional photos could be included to better understand the site where the fencing will be installed, such as stepping back to better see the east side. Some commissioners know they could support wrought iron or wood fencing for residents, but are not typically able to support aluminum fencing for residential property. Their applications have found that the way the picket goes through the rail for aluminum fencing does not match up to wrought iron fencing. Aluminum fencing appearance ends up looking incompatible with residences as a result. The commission asked if the drawing could be expanded to match the scale of the site. The commission noted that if the fencing is installed on a slope, the fence can come across as looking off versus the level down line shown in the drawing. Stacking the 3-foot panels along the slope should avoid that looking off. The commission noted that the 4-foot piece may not be needed, especially if the transition occurs behind the first side window, and they could stack off the 3-foot panels with the elevation. Staff recommends approval of application COA 2500529 at 912 Bryan Road in the Bryan Road Historic District with the following conditions, and that is that the front fencing have a maximum height of 3 feet and is either wood picket or wrought iron in material, and that an updated drawing of fencing is submitted to staff for final review and approval. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code Standards for Site Improvements 316.13, and then the guidelines regarding fences.
Check, all right, you done?
Yes, sir.
What would the applicant like it?
I'm fine, I would like, aluminum in the backyard, side yard, starting about 10 feet behind the front of the house. And I'm fine putting either wood or wrought iron in the front. And you see on the site plan there, the red would be the 3-foot height. I think I would like to just transition from 3 to 5. There's a forsythia there, there's a viburnum. I think it's just easier to go from 3 to 5 as opposed to the one section of 4 as a step.
So the 3 would go back to the 5?
Pardon?
The 3 would go back to the 5 is what?
Yes, yeah. The blue would become red.
Right.
And that's 10 to 11 feet back from the front of the house.
Yeah, I think that concept is correct. My question would be, is there a slope that you have to deal with, or?
There's about a 6-inch slope in the front.
Okay, so it's minimal.
Everything will be level and plumb.
Okay, that was my only question.
You can see the old fence there that you can see this, the little step. It's actually, I can make it level. It's a washout by the front limestone post there.
Ideally, that the top of that fence would be straight across level. Yeah. So that's why I'm raising that. Okay.
And you're thinking about wood or?
Wood picket or, I have not priced wrought iron in a long time.
Right.
I would look at the price. I'm assuming the wood's going to be cheaper because I have my son as the laborer. And but I'm fine with either. It's the price that.
Looks like you got about 12 feet. Right, that you would need to do in iron or wood.
I can't hear you.
I think it's more than that, right?
They're trying to figure out how much fence would replace.
The portion in the front that you're speaking of.
It'll be about 30
iron
feet.
or wood, would you anticipate the length of that being?
30 feet. 30 feet, right?
About 30 feet.
30
I was gonna say the survey says it's 28.6.
That red and blue line is 30 to 34 feet.
I can certainly understand why you want a fence in the backyard. Why do you want the fence in the front yard?
I've lived there 45 years, and I've done 4 buildings in that block. We have a park across the street, Blackburn Park. It has an aluminum fence, hundreds of feet of, you can see it in that picture there. Across the other side of the park is Friends of the Homeless. And so we frequently have visitors who are sleeping in the park and have in fact slept under my front porch, have slept by the front door. People, every house on this block and all down through here has a section of fence in the front, and that's to help deter people from trying to pass through.
Okay.
It's just a visual deterrent. There was a wrought iron fence there that the neighbor removed 20+ years ago. I know, yeah. That's why the wood fence went up, was the neighbor. It was a print business in a residential house, and
Yeah, and we've approved like for like prior, so I think you're in good stead in the idea that there's a fence there now, you're replacing the fence. Probably when the house was built, there wasn't a fence there because they.
Oh, there was, when I bought the house, it was
Yeah.
there, yeah.
But, well, maybe, I mean, traditionally, there tend not to be fences in the front yard in that ancient house, but there's always exceptions. But it's been there for a long time, we've established that for a long time, it's like for like, so. I don't see any reason not to approve it.
Yeah, I think the question is the material.
Yeah,
What'd you say? The
I
material
understand-
is the question.
I understand there's a cost. I think the transparency of the wrought iron is better for a front yard application. So.
Well, I'll price it, but my son won't install it. That's
But
my
it-
problem, it's more labor. Yeah.
It's currently wood, so she's replacing like for like. The code reads if it's like for like, they can do it.
Well, but the replacement, like for like, is only the front section. The rest of it is the recommendation is aluminum. That's the other thing. You're going from wood to aluminum.
Okay.
So
Right,
there's a whole other.
correct.
Right,
Yeah.
so that the
Yeah.
look changes,
But I'm less worried about aluminum in the backyard.
well, no, but this one transition, so the 5-foot section will be all aluminum.
Right. Mhm.
Could you not take wood throughout?
Pardon?
Would you not take wood throughout? The wood,
I can't hear you very well.
would you not take the wood fence throughout? Why change
No,
material?
I'd like to be able to see through the fence. It makes for a better block if you can chat with your neighbors and communicate with the dogs and whatnot. I really don't want a privacy fence down the side line in the backyard. I have one on the alley. Yeah, my preference is to have things open. It's open on the other side of the yard. And,
Curious about have you given any thought, but have you given any thought to what that transition of two materials could potentially look like? You know, I guess the detail of going from
Yeah,
one
no,
material and style and height to another material and style and height could look great, or it might not look so great. And I'm just curious if you've studied
Well, there'll be a
that.
big forsythia bush in front of it.
So the planting you think will help with the.
Yeah, there's a viburnum. The forsythia is 6 feet tall. The viburnum is probably 5 feet by 4 feet in height.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I'm an engineer. I understand what you're saying.
Sure.
I'm just thinking more of getting it done. you know?
Yeah,
No.
understood. Well, I like that you've thought about how the landscape might help with that transition, the visual transition.
Well, we removed 2 trees that were there. We had a mulberry that it was actually my neighbor's, and I should have gone in the dead of night and removed it when it was very young, but I didn't. And it grew to the point it was touching both houses and broke the fence. So that's now gone.
Yeah.
And I had a service berry there, which I'll probably replant. It died of old age, basically. The storm took it out, so. And there's a red bud there in between the 2 houses that's 2-story.
This may be an unpopular opinion, but given the transitional nature of the material, would it be easier for the applicant to consider just a aluminum fence from front to back and picket style, keeping in mind one thing, the city park directly across the street, nothing but aluminum fence. It's not like it doesn't exist in the district in plain view.
And it's not a front fence.
Correct.
Right, so what you're saying is there'd be a 5-foot fence back and it would transition to 3 feet.
But it would be the same.
It'd be the same material.
Like I'm almost wondering, that's more distracting.
Which I think would look better.
And the same profile.
Yeah, it basically, which is what you originally proposed.
Well, in the back, I want a fence that has a solid tight top and solid bottom. I've had a dog go over a 4-foot fence. I think 5 is, I'm not going with 6. I don't think I need 6. I think I do need 5 for a dog. I've had a Vizsla go over a 4-foot fence. I don't want spikes up there.
Right.
I don't want to have to deal with a ripped belly.
Right.
And I would be okay, yeah, that's what I proposed, was the same fence in the front 30 feet, but I'm fine with a picket that doesn't have a flat top.
I'm just wondering if we could be in this consideration, given the precedent, the other fence is already there. I don't know. To me, it'd be less jarring if it doesn't transition in material.
And I think you could see through that. Perhaps you could see through it a little better than if you were to do a wood portion in 3 feet.
I mean, wood picket, but.
Yeah.
Just all,
The
I'm
side-
not saying doing aluminum for the entire length.
Right, I understand. So I'm saying that I think the profile of the aluminum is narrower.
What's our precedent on this, in this neighborhood?
Yeah, to me, like,
Let's city park across.
No, I know, but that's a city, everybody who wants to. Or just, oh, you guys allow that?
I was not on that commission.
I mean, to me, the residential front fences typically have a picket that stands above. And that's what I'm looking for, and there is a very distinct look difference between aluminum fence and a wrought iron fence, which is where I'm coming from. So I think that's what is appropriate for the front of a historic.
So you would want wrought iron.
For the 3-foot section.
3-foot section.
Yeah,
And
and then
then you could switch to aluminum.
that would be my,
If the decorative nature of the fences, the design of the fences was similar.
there is a very distinct aesthetic difference between aluminum fence and a wrought iron.
As well as this pattern, I know it's across the street, it's very suburban. The one with this top component there. It's not classic for this, this is a very suburban profile as opposed to what would be classic for your house.
That's been there a long time, and I'm sure it was put in because it was cheaper than wrought iron.
Get it, and get the.
And that's reality, you know.
If they chose something modern, to go with a modern school building. Or whatever the park facility is. But it's not right for your house.
Not putting a lot of fuel to this, but any idea if you've been to any salvage places or maybe you find a uncut fence that's wrought iron?
I can't hear you very well. There's a buzz up in the air.
Have you by chance considered looking at a recycle or repurposed facility that may have 30 feet of fence that matches that might meet what you're looking
I
for?
haven't.
No.
Your son can
Just
help.
Yeah. My husband is now deceased. That would have been his job. And he did a lot of it. I've got a whole 3rd floor of lighting I have to get rid of. No, I haven't looked at that, but yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
It might be more an option than not. It just might be a possibility.
It's likely more cost effective.
For the 3 foot.
To go find an iron fence at a salvage place. That's got the right kind of.
Or marketplace or something. I'm not sure. I'm not recommending anything, but you never know.
Mhm. I'm thinking of my time and everything else I have to do.
We're thinking about making your house be glorious in this representation of period, or close.
I certainly understand what you're saying about the.
Yeah, it's a precedent setting situation that I'm concerned about.
And it's local guidelines recommend both wrought iron and wood picket style fencing for front yards.
Yeah, we're all thinking we want it to be able to see through it.
Yeah, so the wood picket, if we think back, there's an old beach ball one, I think it was the most recent. But they show a picture in the guidelines that has some spacing in between the pickets. So you can think of like a short front yard picket fence, like the classic Americana picket fence, they have little spaces in between, so they offer more visibility through them than let's say like a wood fence.
And if the regulation says that you allow them to have a wood fence, we can't say, well, we don't care, it has to be wrought iron. We have.
No, yeah, we can, what we can say is that, we can approve till we see the details of the wood and aluminum, because aluminum is an exception that we're making. And if we don't like that, if it does just look tacky. And so I think what they're suggesting are, so we are happy to work with like a see-through option, whether it be wood or wrought iron. I think so the applicant might have come back with some options.
Or we can make it contingent.
Yeah.
I mean, this is.
And then if the commission's okay, the applicant does have a drawing that is.
But the park across the street already does show precedent, so
Yes.
the identical fence that she wants.
I'm not buying it.
The 3 foot there is wood.
That's,
Okay.
yeah, but we can't tell what it is.
That's
So that wood that you're showing it's as transparent to me as the aluminum. Then why don't you just use the wood throughout? The design.
Because it's hard to do a 5 foot picket out of wood
There's transition.
that a dog won't go through.
It's a good drawing.
You find a drawing.
Can you pass it?
So that'd be 30 feet.
So we are okay with a 3 foot with some transparency wood,
The picket right there, that gets in.
right? Or a wrought iron transparency, period, not suburban.
Not the,
Suburban, I find a fence across the street to be very suburban. It's
Okay.
not really appropriate. for
so
these.
you don't want me to have the flat top in the back?
What do we put for that building?
I think in the back, I'm less concerned.
We're still talking about the side,
Right.
the side, we're still talking about the side of the house.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That's what they are.
It's
Which
the,
is visible.
The 3 foot section.
Was the other section visible or not? It's not.
I mean, it is partly,
30 feet and that's
because it's
6.
landscape.
yeah, it goes,
And
yes.
fall comes
Each-
and leaves
Each
go.
section will be 6
Understood.
times 10.
Okay, so I think we're as far as to say the 3 foot can be the wood as you've drawn it. I think we're still debating on the 5 foot.
To me, it is about, I think that Matt's going as the precedent, because we do have a lot of fences related cases that have come through, right? We just need to have a consistent
So
approach to it.
what would you be comfortable with? Repeating the same model?
Yeah, I mean, the wood, the drawing that I'm seeing, the wood to me, just by the drawing, looks very similar to the aluminum. So take the wood and just replicate it in the wood, and I'm not an engineer. But just have wood go through, make it transparent like you're showing, and that's easy. And that's.
Would you rather be aluminum or would you rather?
I think we've got to be very careful to make recommendations on the applicant decide what they want to do then, so we're not.
I'm just saying, sure, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's the option, the option's going to find a wrought iron, the option, I mean, there are all these options right now, so I don't know what, you're right, the applicant wants to propose.
But we have approved a similar fence for back there.
The aluminum.
The aluminum.
In the back there.
Personally, I think that drawing is great. I'd be supportive of that particular installation that she's shown with the wood transitioning to the aluminum.
The only question I have on that drawing is the 3 feet fence you saw me as being 6 feet. Is that enough?
That's one section.
It goes 30 Clive.
It goes,
okay.
it would go
Times
30.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. So it will, wait,
I would not want to do an 8 foot section
right,
in
gotcha,
wood.
gotcha.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that you weren't
Yeah.
just doing the first 6 feet and then.
Yeah,
transition.
that's per section.
Gotcha.
And the aluminum comes in 6 foot sections, so it'd be the same pattern.
I'm uncomfortable with the aluminum fence design because I don't find it related to your house. Generally, I'm okay with its backyard, if it were truly the backyard, but it's part of it's feasible.
The reason for the suburban look is to protect the pets.
I understand.
Yeah, and I have Weimaraners and Vizslas and whatnot. And I have had to hold a horse that got stitched up. It needed to be stitched up because it went through a fence. So, you know, I've lived with fences that don't work.
Okay. I'm still struggling.
But just to clarify, you're struggling with the period. We've already talked about not putting it in the front, but you don't want it in the backyard at all.
I especially don't like the profile of the fence. This is very suburban profile.
Understood.
So if it was something that was for a period, I could get over it. Because it's supposed to be backyard. That's just what I am.
Okay.
But I'm not sure there's anything period that wouldn't be a spike.
I don't know. I have to look at it. I have to do the research. Do you know, Jacqueline?
No, the styles that I can recall that I see in our presses are usually either kind of the spike or a little bit knobby or such, or they have the flat top.
Are there flat tops that don't have the bar 6 inches below?
Not that I'm aware.
Is that about 26 Rich? Is that the average?
Yeah, 912. Right. Yeah, there's.
So there's a consensus on the drawing.
I am gonna take a little bit opposite of some people's point of view here.
That's what we have.
You know, it's right, and again, you know, that's the joy of the commission, right? I'm slightly different opinion. On the basis that there is precedent in this district, I'm willing to entertain the fence that is being proposed. I do think the applicant has grounds to be able to appeal our decision, essentially. If they don't like an outcome that's not favorable to what they proposed. We had permitted this kind of fence in other applications. It exists across the street in great quantity. So, you know, while we can make a decision or members could make a decision however they feel, because it's not in favor of smart money, we haven't challenged it as district in a court of law already. And a lot of it is based on precedent. So, I just look forward to, you know, again, anything can have the vote they want. But if the applicant wants us to vote on what she has proposed, we have.
Are we stating the fence across the street that's at the park is precedent and it came through the commission and it was approved?
It is a newer fence that came through the city on city property. That not in a historic district.
But I also, if I were to make a motion, it would be per that drawing, which shows wood on the front yard and then transitioning to that precedent fence, which we're talking about across the street. That's how if we were gonna, I'd put the motion forward if we were comfortable. And then I think the applicant, are you comfortable with that drawing?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the
I
picket.
understand that there is maybe some dissension or opposing views, but we can work through that. Would you guys like me to make a motion?
Additionally, yes, I think that would be a good thing. Additionally, I would like, if there is a consideration for this drawing, it's just that the survey site plan just gets updated to reflect what was just talked about though. So that we have it both in plan and in elevation.
Sure.
Because again, we vote on materials that I have to serve inspectors in the field, and I just want that to be clear.
I'd just like to say that I do not find it precedent because it is not an historic house.
But it's in the historic district.
I understand that, but it is not embracing an historic house. I find that fundamentally different.
A different context.
Yes. That's just my opinion.
I mean, the fence is nice, but I think I agree because in the past we've had that on it. And back is fine. I think it's the visibility of it to me. And I get that the fence, there are other fences like this in the neighborhood, but it's a different context. So I'm not gonna comment only because we will set the precedent. Well, you can definitely see this, it's not the back. So, how would we protect the next time?
I would challenge the basis of your rationale of saying it's not visual, or sorry, it's a visual location. Again, if there's 200 feet of it directly across the street from the house, along the sidewalk, how is that not visual there?
So, but then if you, then you have the same extension of logic, right? Some things on the building facade that are context you'll allow the same kind of material on this door. I mean, it's the same thing. I know this depends, I know, it's very small, it's very simple. With the logic will then be like, oh, it's happening on the street, on that property, so it's okay to have it there as well. So I'm struggling with that. I don't mind look of the fence by itself. I would put this as my house, or my house is not in the historic district, and that's, so yeah, so I'm uncomfortable with just follow, and it's visible.
What about, just thinking a step further, it sounds like 30 feet gets us back close to a side yard condition where that fence is really starting to be between houses and not as visible from the street. And there's also going to be landscaping. So that's where I'm coming to, like, for me, it's more permissible because it's really a low visual impact. We're seeing for that first 30 feet, we're going to see that wood fence. And then we transition to the
And it's parallel with the side.
I'm not trying to persuade anyone, but that's just how I'm.
No. Yeah, I guess it's 30 feet.
For my clarification, is the 30 feet, is that at the edge of the home or is it further back?
The 30 feet is the red and blue on that site plan.
Because typically, we have either privacy or just not front yard fences, the fence goes behind the first side window. So I'm wondering.
It goes behind there's that front window, you see that little nook out there.
Mhm.
That's about 6 feet, and then there's 4 feet of chimney. So it's give or take 10 to 11 feet in there.
Okay. So getting into more of a side yard condition.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's how I would distinguish this. I think it's a rear yard fence. And so to me, the aluminum is okay for that application, but not in front yard. And I don't think the park is really a precedent to me for this neighborhood because parks have chain link fences and all kinds of fences, and that really wouldn't be appropriate in a residential property. So that's where I would agree with your drawing. This is where I'm heading.
I guess I go with that, it's, concentrated the side is almost like the back, and it's 30 feet in. Yeah, but agree, not because there's a precedent, but because it's so far back, that's, I can work with that.
So, just to be clear, the applicant, as the applicant, you are proposing, you're amending your application to be consistent with that drawing.
Mm-hmm. And I'll redo
There are
the site
5
plan.
sections of wood fencing. And then it switches to the aluminum, and that's what you are proposing, and you will be submitting, this is in consideration, that you'll be submitting drawings revised to staff for to reflect that.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure we've got that clear on.
Sure. I make it as simple as to say, I'd like to make a motion to approve based upon Commissioner McCabe's outline of the stipulation. Or would you like me to restate them? Restate them if you'd like. 5 sections of wood fence, transitioning to the aluminum, which we are considering a backyard condition per the drawing submitted by the applicant.
With transparency.
Right. With transparency as depicted in the drawing.
I would also say, you may not want to know your motions, say that I would entertain and celebrate wrought iron historic choice in the front.
So we can make a motion and then we're gonna discuss that after that.
Okay,
So go ahead.
I know everything.
Good. I second. Okay, now what do you think about this? So yes, I agree with that. If you want to do wrought iron, great. If you find a 30-foot piece, if you have to find a 30-foot piece of wrought iron, you think looks good, submit it to staff.
Okay.
If not, you can go with the wood, do like a drawing.
Okay.
That's good.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, will the wood be colored, painted?
Black.
Black, okay, so I think we should just.
I don't want white fence.
Yeah, so it'll all be the same color.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll.
That the metal will match the
Yeah.
Like to amend the motion to state that all of the fencing, both aluminum and wood, will be black.
Mhm.
Second, yeah, I'm okay with it.
Green says our paint color. Okay. Is there any further discussion, Jacqueline? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
Thank you.
For that opportunity.
So the previous space, staff recently followed, so I have 30 documented bigger than that we know, just confirm all that we need to submit.
And I'll redo the drawing, the site plan. Okay, thank you.
Take care.
Check out the one we skipped, much answer.
We did not. Is anybody still here for potentially 1551 Brighton Road? No. Moving on to case number 9712 South Ohio.
That applicant did let staff know today that they weren't able to make it. They did submit some revisions based on commission business meeting feedback, so it might be something that the commission, maybe can review, after we review the cases for applicants that are here, see if they're able to, take action on it or not.
367 East Northwood Avenue. Come forward. And raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth in your testimony before the commission this evening.
I do.
If you can state your full name and association with the property record.
Razzie Dole, I'm an applicant and also a manager.
Okay.
This is not gonna take very long.
Well,
Good afternoon.
Okay, this application for 367 East Northwood Avenue, the initial proposal was to replace existing asphalt shingle roofing, with asphalt shingles that were now approved shingles list and that work was completed, as well as remove the chimney from the east side of Bay Ridge, and then alterations to the garden wall. So the application is a result of a code violation. The home historically has slate shingles and was sheathed with asphalt shingles that resembled slate in recent years. The approved shingles list was established based on historic use of roofing materials in Columbus, specifically the types, colors, and shapes of slate. And while no asphalt shingles exactly mimics the size, color, and texture of slate, those on the current list are the closest we have found or we have presented with to this point. At the August business meeting, the commissioner that while the roofing shingles look nice, the style is not appropriate to the house. The roofing that has been installed is a wood-shaped style shingle, while the house historically has slate. The commission can support asphalt shingle from the approved list or other shingle resembling slate and following the metal ritual and fencing requirements outlined on the approved list. The commission appreciated the applicant clarifying that the garden wall will be put back after city site work is completed. And the commission noted that the chimney is an important feature that will need to be rebuilt with submission of the drawing. The commission noted that the other chimney on the house that is still present may serve as a good example if it matched the chimney that was removed. Staff recommends approval of application COA 2500738 at 367 East Northwood Avenue in the Iuka Ravine Historic District with the following conditions. And that is that an asphalt shingle from the approved shingles list and following metal ridge wall and venting requirements be installed, with final shingle selection to be submitted to staff prior to issuance of a certificate. And that the chimney that was removed be rebuilt to match the previous dimensions, with a drawing of the chimney to be submitted to staff for final review and approval prior to issuance of a certificate. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code Standards for Alteration, 316.11, numbers 2, 6, 11, and 12, and then the guidelines regarding roofing materials, chimneys, fence, and landscaping. Thank you.
Thank you. And what would the applicant like to add at this time, and also in consideration of these staff recommendations as well?
The only reason I want to be here and ask for the approval to keep the existing shingles I put on the roof, because we purchased the house last year, not realizing this is a historic house.
That sounds like an issue with your title company, sir. Unfortunately, we've had several other homeowners sort of come in and make that statement. That's something you probably need to take up with your title company if they did not tell you that, or figure that out. We're just here to, we can't consider that as a basis for approval.
Okay.
Because you didn't know. Unfortunately, you did not get a permit or something that would have flagged this potentially.
Right.
And so we've got this removal of a chimney and a roof, and we do have precedent, this commission has generally not supported removal of chimneys and doing what was done.
Right.
So, I'll quickly turn this over, to other commission members, but I was just gonna say, I don't think you're generally gonna find support for this.
Right. One more comment that may or may not make a difference. I don't know how this house was categorized as a historic because there's multi houses on
Beautiful
both sides.
size.
Yeah, I know
It really
that.
is.
Basically, there's no surrounding houses. There's right across multi-family homes and multi-family homes on both sides. So this is just one off, sitting there by itself.
It's even more important to preserve it then.
Huh?
It's even more important to have it preserved then.
Now, you promised to keep it quick.
So I would say that in the business meeting, we had the same exact reaction. So it's
Yeah.
pretty simple for us. I mean, I know it's hard for you, but that is,
We can,
Right.
we can entertain a motion for you to keep the roof and the chimney as is. I don't know how favorable that will come. My sense is that the outcome will probably not be favorable. There is the staff recommendation out there to rebuild the chimney and a little bit of the roof and putting on a code compliant roof. The re-roof can go to a staff approval no matter what. The chimney, likewise would be required submission of material to rebuild the chimney.
You just want to have a drawing of what you've already got.
Yeah.
You've got examples, so we need to.
Put a code with our, in the file, what it looked like, so.
Yeah.
That's what we decided to match the existing active chimney on the right
Just gotta
side.
draw it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then put it back.
Okay.
All right, sounds easy. But I appreciate you being kind and understanding about it.
Right.
So maybe to give the applicant time to revisit this, we could continue the application so that you could actually submit your route that you'd like to do. And if you submit something that's on the pre-approved list, Jacqueline could even staff approve it for you to move on with.
Yeah.
And then we're only dealing with just the chimney issue, and depending on the drawing that comes back,
Okay.
that may be a staff approval as well, depending on just getting that drawing into.
I'd say the application to come back, you get staff to take care of it.
What would be the timeline for that?
Well, what we would do is basically, we would continue the application, you have to work with staff on getting materials to them and making your decisions. But that'll at least document for the city for your code violation that you're trying to work this out with the city.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll just wait to hear from Jacqueline.
Well, you have to take all the onus and effort to keep working with her, not she's working with you, you're working with her.
Okay.
So you gotta get a drawing and then figure out, what your shingle, and then she can approve that particularly fast. You wouldn't have to wait the full month.
Okay.
What we're doing though is because we have this certificate and this issue, we have to make a movement on what it is today.
Okay.
Now, if you came to staff this week, coming next and said, okay, I'm gonna do this shingle and here's my drawing, she could probably approve it very quickly. So,
Okay.
and we don't have to be here for that because it's on the approved list.
Okay.
Make sense?
Jacqueline, are you comfortable with staff approval of the chimney, or would you want that to come before the commission?
yes, so if the chimney drawing looks good, it looks like it matches what the chimney that was removed. That's a pretty simple staff approval. It's only if it looks different, if there's sort of outliers, then it's outside of my ability to staff approve, so they need to come back to the commission.
Okay.
Yeah, he wants to make it match. I mean, we have a picture, so.
So if the applicant is okay, I'd like to move this to a motion to continue.
Okay.
So
second,
having a motion and a second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention. Do yourself a favor, just keep in touch with Jacqueline on progress, to keep your case moving, not to where you
Okay.
want to do it the right way, not the wrong way.
Okay. I told you I'm not gonna take very long.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for helping us.
Moving on to case number 10, case number 11, 1462 Bright Road. If you could raise your right hand, do you swear to tell the truth in your testimony?
I do. I do.
State your full name and association with the property for record.
Bart Overly, Blowstein Overly Architects.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Okay, this application for 1462 Brighton Road is proposing to install a retaining wall and fence And that would be the front yard area for the interiors. This property includes a 19th century 2.5-story brick main style home and about a certain per carriage house. Application shows from the 1990s show the aluminum stone retaining wall was previously in place. Here. At the August business meeting, some commissioners noted they still have concern about having fencing on top of the wall. The commission asked that the applicant include images of any precedent, historic or approved fence and wall combos in the area. The applicant has provided photos of the property on Neal Avenue in the Victorian Village Historic District with similar fencing. The Victorian Village District is staffed by a different commission. The Victorian Village Commission has approved a wrought iron fencing with a retaining wall and plantings on Neal Avenue for 851 Neal Avenue. With the condition there that the fencing be set back from the retaining wall to be less opposing and avoid a wall mount effect, and the landscaping contribute to that distance. So the staff recommendation is to recommend approval of application COA 250089 1462 Brighton Road in the Brighton Historic District, with the condition that if fencing is approved in addition to a retaining wall, staff recommends setting back the fencing back from that retaining wall and then including plantings to soften that wall mount effect. With any updated drawings being submitted to staff for final review and approval. The basis for the staff recommendation is the City Code of Standards for Site Improvements 31613, letters A and B, and then the guidelines regarding fencing, and should also include guidelines regarding fencing.
What would the applicant like to add at this time?
Only that we would definitely entertain stepping the wrought iron fence behind it. I mean, typically what I saw on Neal Avenue is it sits like 2 to 4 inches behind the wall. And then we'd have an 18-inch landscape border. We have to keep it low because we're in the right of way and we have a BZA application that's related to that. But we would certainly entertain all of that.
So the retaining wall remains and then just an offset, and then what about the height of the fence? The height?
It will stay the same. I think it's
Total
3
height still the
foot
same.
overall height. And actually the retaining wall, because it's in the right of way, has to be a foot. I think in the staff report it says 1'6". It's dropping down even lower to a foot. And then the height of the wrought iron fencing will still stay at the level of the deck of the porch, the new porch.
How tall?
What's that?
Which makes it how tall?
3'2" or 3'4".
So it's a 4-foot fence, basically.
It's less than a 4-foot fence. But overall, the overall dimension would be.
4 and change.
What's that?
4 and change.
No, I was just adding your stone wall.
4 inches.
What is it?
3 foot 4 inches.
Plus the retaining wall, right?
No.
Including retain,
Okay.
including,
It's just above waist height.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there would be a forthcoming revised drawing to both reflect
Yes.
moving the fence back, to create the planning area and the stepping.
So we want to continue it for the drawing?
I think if we could
Or do you just want to?
have the drawing revised and submit it to staff as a condition, that would be.
Before I go there, the examples, are these your examples from Neal Avenue?
Yes.
They don't, they look like more than 4 or 6 inches.
What's that?
You said something about 4 or 6 inches back.
Yeah.
It looks like more than that to me.
We saw some are actually sitting on top of the stone wall
Right.
or the brick.
Right.
Some are sitting
Behind it.
just behind, even like 2 inches behind. We would want to keep it as close to that.
So what you're saying, is your fence like, is your iron fence at the back then of the?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Offset just a little bit.
That's good.
The material of the fence, to your question.
It's going to be wrought iron.
Thank you.
Mm.
And you're gonna go look at architectural salvage of that lady too?
I don't know. It was a good idea though.
I just worry somebody's gonna pick up some really hideous wrought iron, you're gonna go, gosh, you should have never suggested that.
Awesome. Fairly cute. Yeah,
Grapevines and all.
I'm comfortable. I can make a motion to accept as presented with the caveat that the design would dark and updated with all the discussions that we had in terms of the setback and, just what else was that setback?
Landscape.
Landscape.
It has to be adjusted to reflect the stepping and stuff.
And the landscape, yes.
I will second.
Having a motion and a second, Jacqueline, is that clear in your mind?
Yes, is there any specification in regards to landscaping?
Is there a follow-up on landscaping if there was something proposed by the other then?
The only thing I just want to add is it's gonna have to stay very low because we're in the right of way and we're also getting that 30-foot vision triangle business resolved. So it's gonna be like, we're talking like
Small shrub, small stuff.
small stuff. Yeah.
So we probably just need a plan of some kind.
Yeah.
To approve that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can follow up with that.
Could that be a condition of the approval submitted to staff? And if staff does not feel that they have the ability to review that, we could have a subcommittee including UMAP?
Yeah, I think that's fine, but verbally what you're saying is we're talking about one row of plantings, 3-foot wide fence, something like that.
Yeah, probably even less than
Okay.
3 feet. Yeah.
So verbally, it's a narrow planting strip with low plantings immediately behind the fence.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm comfortable with that. You just need a plan that shows.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with it?
Yeah, I'd be comfortable with that.
I'd just like to comment, we've seen this happen a number of times and the drawings are always a surprise. What we see, so appreciate that, really good content in terms of, the visual depiction.
So, yeah.
Thanks.
Did we have do we have a second to your motion, Mike?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's,
We were part of that was a discussion.
I had a moment there. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Wait around, I can give that another one.
I will.
No, we have to jump to this other one. And then moving on to case number 1377 Briar Road. Our conceptual application. If you raise your right hand, you swear to tell the truth, your testimony, you wish to speak.
I do.
You can state your full name and association with property correctly.
Lonnie Freeman, I'm the property owner.
Okay, let me see. Yeah.
Okay, this application for 1377 Bryan Road, or really the lot adjacent to that parcel, is for a variance recommendation request as well as conceptual new construction. The new construction is for a 2.5-story residence, a currently vacant lot, formerly known as 1371 Bryan Road, for the submitted materials, and an installation of a 2-car frame garage facing the Cary Avenue alley. The site is a vacant grassy lot situated to the immediate west of 1377 Bryan Road property. The site previously had the address of 1371 Bryan Road. The property formerly included a 2.5-story brick residence and a wood frame single-story garage at the rear. The residence and garage were raised approximately in the 1970s. A retaining wall and service steps remain. Staff recommends, this is conceptual, but that the applicant include current photos of the site in lieu of auditor photos. This is due to the auditor photos taken from 2022, something quite current. Since this is a conceptual application, the recommendation is that the commissioners offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine proposal for review at a future interested meeting, and so no action is required. The basis for the staff recommendation is the city code standards for construction 31612, and then the guidance regarding garages and outbuildings on pages 85 and 87. Thank you.
By the way, for record, I have to abstain from this conversation because I have an active business relationship with your company.
Okay.
I'll need somebody else to chair the conversation. Stuart, can you take over chair?
Sure.
Thank you.
Great drawings, by the way.
Thank you.
Nice work. Do you have any easements or variances or anything we have to talk about? I see some blue pool and whatnot. Getting on there. Are you encroaching too tight on the lot line or anything on this?
No easements, just the variances. Yeah, were mentioned for the two unit dwelling, the lot width from 50 to 37, which is existing, and the calculation of the area district requirements
Calculation of the what?
of the lot coverage, area district requirements. Yeah.
Those variants, that'll be a separate process, right? They're just giving feedback on the design.
At one point, we could make a recommendation.
Yeah.
Before the recommendation is that.
You can make a recommendation. This is a conceptual for the construction part. So if the commission is comfortable making a recommendation with the other part being conceptual, we can do that.
Yeah, I think you've got a well-developed drawing set, and I think it's great that you're doing infill development on the site. So I'd be very supportive of variances, and I think that pretty solid application so far. We can get into details, but my questions would be around the site landscape plan, for general stuff about that. I do see a tree here. Are there other things that you would be proposing in site? Or maybe not, but they're just not shown on the drawing yet.
Sure. Just to give you a little bit of background, I'm a builder in this neighborhood. That's all I do. I've built 8 single-family houses in the last 2 years and 14 condo units. Typically, what we do is we do like a row of landscape in the front with mulch and some low plants, some very basic, kind of what you're seeing a little bit. Carrick, my architect, couldn't be here today because he's moving his daughter into college at the dorm today, so he couldn't make it back. But some to be honest, we have not really fleshed out. But like we said, we're here for a recommendation on the zoning variances, but just a conceptual review on the architectural part, and we can continue to work through that.
I have not done personally reviews of info like this. It's a very big footprint compared to everything else in the neighborhood. Is there anything in the guidelines that we need to pay attention to about?
So guidelines have, or I guess city code has new construction, where they're supposed to relate to other structures.
Right.
As far as height, rhythms.
Like the law.
And we can take a look at what's there. No, we're gonna have to get Jenna with that one.
You have the height of 1377, by chance?
I don't. 2.5 should be under 35. And then the style of this house, the massing that Carrick used to come up with this is based on, I don't know the address, but it's 3 houses to the west. So there's our lot, the vacant lot, the alley, the house in the corner, the second one in.
Is that a wider lot than you have here?
It's similar, same. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you look at that address and look at our drawing, our massing in the front and the porch and the roof pitches all kind of
So to your mind, it feels like it belongs.
I think so. At the initial DAC meeting, that's kind of feedback was, hey, looks like
The package, did you guys include the example house?
It actually cuts off right there.
Yeah, I was trying to find pictures.
you know what, Carrick puts the other, it's not in here now.
There's an aerial, but it's harder to tell. You look at.
You can kind of start to see it there, but it's small.
Top left.
Yeah.
It would be nice eventually to, even your elevation, if you had, take a photograph of
Like a streetscape.
streetscape and then
Yeah.
insert your building in it to make us kind of,
Sure.
we're gonna make a nice package anyway. It would be
Sure.
nice to do that, easy to do it in Photoshop. And then same thing in plan, like if you just look at that, like show all the footprints and how yours fits in.
Sure.
What's the basis for your lot coverage variance?
Yeah, so to be honest, that was something that was added. Basically, how they calculate the lot coverage. We were under the 50%. I just noticed that today when I printed the new packet out that was resubmitted to you guys. So we're at I think 64 now.
That's what I think I'm reacting to.
Yeah, and to be honest, I just found out today. To be honest,
No problem.
it's something I'll work with Carrick on. I just based on the how it was computed before, we were under the 50%. That's my goal. So I'm gonna work with him to get that under the 50%. These units right now are 2,000 square feet and 2,200 square feet each, which is a little bit big for my liking. Most of my units I built are about 1,800 square feet. So I'd like to kind of shrink the footprint a little bit. Anyway, so that was new to me today. So
That's what's
we'll work on
standing
that.
out to me personally is just the size. I think Cynthia's also reacting to that. And, you know, oftentimes we're looking at context too, and you just look at the lot coverage of your neighbors and comparatively. Of course, you're going through zoning and that, but in terms of recommendation to me, just from a conceptual review standpoint, does seem like it's a lot of building.
Sure. My architect tends to go a little bit bigger than when I tell him to go. So, like I said, something we can work on. I don't mind going smaller.
But I think it's out of proportion. This feels.
I mean, we can consider it if you really want it, but it's something if you don't want it.
I don't know. I'll be honest with you. If I'm being honest with you, yeah,
That's the first step.
Right, if you land at 58%, I think I'd be totally fine with that. I mean, I'm not uncomfortable with what you're showing right now, but if you're gonna shrink a little bit, but you still need that variance, I think. I'd be comfortable.
Sure.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Sweet property,
Thank
sweet
you.
space.
Thank you.
Looks good. The porches look nice. It looks like it'll really fit in with the
I agree.
style of the massing. I mean, she really is exemplary, very infill, I think, on the list.
The massing's really nice.
Yeah.
Material.
Yeah.
Cut sheets are great. It's all red.
The parcel to the adjoining is a vacant as well. Do you know what's gonna happen?
That guy that owns a lot of property, and he's not selling anything anytime soon.
Holding on.
Yeah, you guys probably know him. He owns a lot of stuff.
When you
in
try
town.
to shovel in ground,
What's that?
when you want to dig.
So if everything goes as planned, we get through city council, I think in October, November. If we can get in November, great. Otherwise, we'll have to wait till the spring.
Okay.
But as soon as possible.
Yeah, so like when you come back, so landscaping, any fences that you're proposing in the back or in front, you know, all those types of things, we'll
Sure.
just want to see.
Does the commission feel comfortable making a recommendation on the variances?
Until we see the revised.
For me,
It's just a lot issue. But I mean, which part of it did you feel?
I just think the footprint should be smaller.
What are you thinking of doing that?
No, I'd want her to see it.
With the variances to be revised to reflect that?
are you able to do up to a certain lot coverage, like, and if you come in a little under, then I don't know, I'm just trying to give you a little improvement as you finish your design.
Does that help your timeline too?
Well, I was gonna say, so we plan to go and ask for the NEAC recommendation for zoning that can allow us to go to the city council. I'm not sure if Dave Hare's not here either, so I'll have to ask him if your recommendation is required before we go to city council, and how that affects my timing. Like I said, we want to build this year. That was my goal, was to try to get in the ground in October, November.
Yes.
If it may help you time wise, I don't know, but.
If you could,
So what's your coverage right now?
as it is today, with the new variance, it's 64%.
And are you telling us what you want to get to?
No, I don't want to commit to that
Okay.
because my architect was out of town today and I didn't get a chance to talk to him about it. But I'm telling you, I do want to shrink it.
But if you could say not to exceed.
55%. Yeah, I'd be comfortable with that right now.
It's a pretty big drop, I'm just saying that.
Well, I know the size I want to get to, so I feel I kind of looked at it and did my own calculations a little bit, and I feel comfortable with that.
Okay, so I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if something changes, we will, need to come back anyway.
Sure.
and Approval of the design.
Sure.
You could even come to the business training.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'll make a motion to make a recommendation for variances that includes a modification to a 55% or less lot coverage.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Nice package. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
No, I used to have an active contractor. It would not like there. Yeah.
All right, you want
Yep. Moving back on to case number 13-1462 Brighton Road.
Once again.
We have sworn you in once, but you can state your full name, association of the property for record, there's file.
Bart Overly, Boasting over the Architects.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Okay, this is a conceptual application for demolition. The demolition will be for a circa 1900 brick carriage house, and then also construction to construct a U3-car carriage house as its interiors. So demolition was previously reviewed conceptually in 2022. The property did transfer to new ownership in 2023. The property includes the 19th century Queen Anne style home within that 1900 brick carriage house. As the carriage house is a historic resource, at some point during the process, staff does recommend a site visit. The August business meeting, the commission noted that based on the photos submitted so far, they do see several isolated areas of poor condition, but also a lot of good material. The commission requested that the applicant include an engineer's report that outlines what repairs would be needed in order for the commission to evaluate if the deterioration crosses the threshold that demolition of historic structure is needed. This is a conceptual review, so the recommendation is that the commission offer design feedback that can be utilized by the applicant to further refine the proposal for review at a future HRC meeting, and so no action is required. The basis for the recommendation is the city code standards for demolition 3106.14, then the guidelines regarding garages and outbuildings, and the city code standards for construction 3106.12. Thank you.
Only thing I'll add is, we have a structural report that's in process. We'd probably have that available by the time we would have it available by the time we actually submit this for action. The structure, the existing structure is about 18 by 22. And with a 20, or that's a 19-foot height. Our proposal is a 37 by 30 foot footprint that's 22 feet in height. So we're trying to retain the cross gable massing of the historic structure while also turning this into a usable piece of property. It's not deep enough as, by modern standards for a garage bay, too close to the alley. And that is not withstanding the condition of the structure, which it's in my opinion, it's in poor condition. It's been not been maintained with prior owners, and there's some significant delamination issues with the brick, particularly on the south side, and I think a tour of the property would be great for you all to see that.
You own this property, I forget.
No.
when you say you want to maintain, I think it's the gable or something along those lines.
The cross gable,
Cross
massing.
gable. They talk about the massing, not the original material. You're talking
Right,
about
right.
demolition, not maintaining any of the elements.
We're not proposing maintaining any of the physical elements, but the character of it as a cross gable was certainly something that I think when we first met the commission back in 2022 with a different owner, we had a different design, and I think the idea was, well, maybe we could deal with the character of the structure and, enlarge it, but also be sensitive to the height of it as a secondary structure, which I think we're trying to do by keeping it at that 22-foot height. But yeah, it would be a brand new structure, a full demolition of the existing.
Or you're paying homage with the roof line, and you're paying homage with the roof line, and I think that makes sense.
That's the attempt, yeah.
I know we're waiting for the structural report, but if some of the material of the original structure is salvageable. It'll be interesting to see how we could use it in your rendering. Yes.
I agree with that, and for sure we would look at that. I mean, there could be ways of doing some brick panels that would maintain some of the existing, the portions that are not badly water damaged and things like that. But
Being very familiar with this neighborhood, and I did a project not necessarily in the district, but in the neighborhood, and took down the red brick structure, and ultimately it wasn't actually that bad to go through and have some day laborers just sit there and clean the brick, and used them as a veneer system, then reapplied to the building. To me, with the combination of if we see proof that this building maybe has some unsafe conditions, with the replication of the roof lines and the general proportions, and if there's an ability to like upcycle the material back onto the face of it in some capacity, at least for an entire facade or something. Maybe it's the most streetward facing facade.
Or a chimney or.
Well, I think there's enough here off four sides that I bet, they can easily get at least one whole facade out of it. Then it has a lot of right things going for it, I think.
It's good for
Yeah, it's trying to do the best of what I can if all those other statements are true.
I agree with that. I think the thing that's cool about it is the building design, truly the massing, the scale. So I just want to see a shadow building etched onto your final one with some of those materials. I know that's probably crazy, but there have been some great things done where someone has taken like the outline and some of the materials underneath.
Oh, I see.
Posed it on one.
So it's a trace.
It's like an echo of what it was.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because I think this building is awesome. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. Are you talking about the existing or the?
The existing.
Okay.
Yes, other than,
So close, but.
other than the brick veneer, that you mentioned, what is the main structural issue? I mean, the roof line doesn't look horribly sagging, or the building itself doesn't look skewed. I don't see any major cracks, I don't see bulging walls. I don't really, for the pictures, I don't see.
Yeah,
You would have to, structural damage.
you would have to visit it, but one side of the north elevation, that brick wall, they poked all these different openings in it over the years, and it's bowing. Yeah, and it's bowing about, to my eye, about 3 inches. The west elevation, or actually, if you look at the last image, that's the west elevation. You can see that seam where the entire south wall is delaminating, and there is a lot of bowing in the roof structure itself. It's just not been, it has not been well maintained over the years, and significant water damage.
How long is the current owner?
Less than 2 years.
That's the range.
Do you have any preliminary findings that you could share with the commission on the structural report at this stage?
No.
We feel rather hold that. Okay.
I just don't right now, but.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I do echo the other commissioners that, some people might look at this and say this is an eyesore, but when I look at it, I see a lot of history in it. There are certain decisions made with it that I would disagree with, but what it does do is it recognizes the passage of time and the evolution of that building. In some ways, it's artful in a way, in what it does. And I know that structural conditions notwithstanding, the desires to expand and renew and take on a new life for the current owner. But there's a lot of really nice redeeming qualities about scale and materiality of this building, and it's. I'll be interested to see what the report comes back at, but I would hate to see this structure go.
I do kind of echo that only from the standpoint of I'd rather almost hear, you know, you say like we're doing a gut rehab and by the way, we've got to make a small addition to accomplish some other goals to get into the house we want, et cetera. And almost the structural report sort of saying, you know, hey, we got to put some ties and by the way, you're going to have some exposed plates and bolts or something because we're going to, you know, do some structural gymnastics, but to stop things from bowing and pull things back.
Isn't a lot.
Yeah, I would want to make sure that you truly have a case for demolition here.
And you can, you know, if the applicant is, okay with it, the commission can do site visits. Usually we restrict to just 2 commissioners at a time, so we don't, you know, are getting very close to a public meeting. That can be helpful since there's the same person.
I would love to just see a full package from the applicant maybe first. First, think about it, see the report.
Yeah, we'll do that. And then I think we can definitely arrange, I mean, I'd be fine, I'm speaking on behalf of the client, but I think he would be fine if the entire commission just wanted to schedule a time to come out there and look
We're all
at it.
open to that, but we don't have to be here that way.
We see due to the sunshine rules and.
Oh, is that?
What-
Have
what's
a look at
quorum?
the commission.
Oh, I see. I thought it was like something like you didn't want to intrude on the
No, we have
client.
to stagger our visit in order to.
Aha. I understand.
It's meeting, it's like you're
Yeah,
building.
so it's better to start with the report and build your case with the report.
Okay.
And good photos and documentation, maybe have the engineer come here even, you know, that might not. be a bad
And
idea.
also, yours, and then we're hoping to be able to see some creativity. The word is great, let's go.
And just one clarification, is this a lot split and a separate residence, or is this an ADU?
We're gonna approach it as an ADU.
Okay, I'm supportive of like a person living here, so.
Yeah.
Whether it's one way or the other, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Just hypothetically, if you had to, no, that sign is crazy, I don't know what that thing is, but. Did you kind of look at the drawing and say, could we punch it out another 8 feet here and do this? I mean, has any of that made any sense at all?
In terms of doing an addition to the structure?
Assuming there was enough fabric, right?
Um,
Haven't really looked too much at that.
no, we have not. I mean,
That's okay,
I'm
that's just curious.
I'm sticking with my story that my gut is I mean, we are definitely gonna have the structural report produced and.
Sure. Just curious.
It just feels very cost prohibitive, some of the things that we would have to do to get this not only stabilized, but let it meet the new needs of the new owner.
Are the issues that you guys are witnessing, do they, you know, there's nothing on the interior, I know our purview has nothing to do with your interior, but I'm just curious, is the interior, does it have a lot of issues as well structurally?
Yes. Yeah, the floor of the second floor has some bowing and a lot of water damage. It's been vacant, so.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts for us or?
I think that's it. I appreciate the new thoughts on this and I like the idea of
Different lens.
finding a way to put a trace of what was within it. I think that's an interesting idea, but I think let's get the structural report and then we'll resubmit as an action item.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. So we've got 1551, right? And then we also have some
Yeah.
potential action on.
Yeah, let's go back to case number 9, which is 712 South of Pine. Jacqueline, you wanted to talk about case number 9?
Yeah. It's, so 712, this is one where the applicant let us know, they couldn't make it. So they have made some revisions based on the business meeting feedback, which specifically was regarding landscaping screening. So this is regarding a parking or adding a parking pad. The applicant had previously received approval for demolition of kind of the remnants of the concrete block garage as well as the deteriorated remnants of the parking pad. And so they're now proposing a new parking pad And then their updates include adding, I believe it's arborvitae, if I can get to the right page here, adding on the sides for screening, for consideration of the neighbors.
Did the lot or the size of the pad change to, is it smaller or is it consistent?
I'm not sure what the original pad was. The placement of the pad is moving. Who's number 9? Get this up here.
That'll park 4 cars.
Yeah.
But I guess it's no different than having a 2-car garage with an apron where somebody can park their cars, so.
Right. The only thing I would have an issue with is putting some of those arborvitaes in the front, so we don't get anybody driving in the yard, all that kind of craziness.
It's 18 by 20, so, right? So what I'm saying there.
Yeah.
So that's 2 parking spaces,
It's
basically.
basically 4 cars, yeah. Oh, right? Two cars.
The same
Parking spaces, 9 by 8.
Oh, okay.
So I think it's,
Staggered.
it really won't look huge, I don't think.
So does this seem like something the commission should just go forward and consider much of?
Is that what staff said?
Yeah, we recommend approval, and if there's any clarifications, recommend be submitted to staff for review and approval prior to the certificate.
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
Having a motion and second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion.
Extension.
Oh,
Make a-
abstention. Okay, Mike, is an abstention.
I make a motion to continue 1551 Brighton Road to the next business
Second.
meeting. And mission.
Having a motion and a second, just real quick. Jacqueline, any reason why they did not come, any insight into conversation, dialogue, status, anything?
Yeah, so at the business meeting, for 1551 Brighton, the commission had asked if the applicant could revise their drawing so that it shows that the skirts will be going to mortar joints and to revise, their maintenance plan so that we have the timeline and what they're gonna do, once they take it down. Or, when they take it down. The applicant didn't think they could update the drawing because of skill set. So it could be possible, they said they do intend to put screws into the mortar joints, not into the brick. So staff could notate that, the commission was comfortable. Okay. And they said they were also okay with submitting an updated maintenance plan.
Well, I could withdraw that and then put it to staff's final.
Yeah, in that case, we could also, approve with those conditions, make that an official.
Yeah, a condition upon finals.
I like that.
Do you feel comfortable with the maintenance plan?
Yes, so just to recap, to make sure this is what the commission is looking for. For their maintenance plan, the commission is looking for more information on the timeline, how long the installation will be in place, and then the plan for taking down, once it's, needs to be taken down. And if there's anything else.
It strikes me there are other parts of the presentation that needed annotation. So if you could just make sure they include everything that we talked about.
Yeah, let's bring it up here real quick.
Wasn't the maintenance plan, the one they submitted was about the planting, and we were looking for maintenance plan for the painting.
That's probably better recap, yeah.
Well, it's a paint by numbers for the community kind of, so I'm not a nerd, so I'd be like.
So this is the revision that we, that has come before this one.
That we could be fewer. And for them, that's a lower price.
Well,
Yeah,
the thing
they
is, it's hardly 4 by each or 2 by 4 sheets.
So I'm just talking about the. That's doesn't.
Yeah.
You could do less stuff.
Oh,
This one.
Or get away with smaller supports, they could make them like 1 by instead of 2 by 4 or whatever's up there, but yeah.
We just talked about this.
It's not us to engineer, I suppose.
Right.
Couldn't they just take the drawing and like cross out, the screws and just draw in like new ones? It doesn't have to be a complicated and expensive thing.
Written
It's just that.
annotation.
Just an annotation and then, that
I think just a note on the drawing, screws can be put in mortar joint.
That's all we need.
I don't, maintenance plan for the painting, maintenance for the planting.
I'd like to make a motion for 1551 Brighton Road to approve with the following conditions: that there's a maintenance plan provided to staff. Also, the duration of the art exhibit's life cycle. And also what happens after that life cycle. What are we looking at after that? And lastly, if we could notate a drawing of where the anchor is going to be placed. And it's encouraged that those will only be placed in more time.
Not encouraged, what needed.
Right.
Yeah.
Second.
Having the motion and a second, any further clarification required? Jack?
No.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion passes. Jack, is there any other old or new business this evening?
No items of old or new business.
Having none,
I now adjourn.
second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, abstention, motion passes. 6:29 PM. We are officially adjourned. Thank you.